environment with the record high heat, low humidity, as you mentioned, unpredictable and dynamic wind conditions, combined with the rugged terrain and altitude in the Sierras.
Busy day of campaigning for President Trump, the president speaking in Jupiter, Florida, and then Winston-Salem, North Carolina, tonight. The president on Tuesday saying he would spend whatever it takes to win. This is USA Radio News.
Do you have an idea for an invention or new product? Do you think companies would be interested in your idea? Do you want to try to get a patent? Then call InventHelp now. InventHelp keeps your idea confidential and explains every step of the invention process. We create professional materials representing your idea and submit it to companies who are looking for new ideas. We have more than 9,000 companies who have agreed to review ideas in confidence. If a company shows interest in manufacturing your invention, we can negotiate on your behalf. We have helped over 10,000 clients receive patents. We also offer services including 3D modeling and animation demonstrating your idea, prototyping services, and we use state-of-the-art technology to show InventHelp client ideas to additional companies. Join the thousands of people just like you who chose InventHelp to pursue their idea. We are experienced. We are working for you. We are InventHelp.
Call us for free information at 1-800-460-1663. That's 1-800-460-1663. Again, 1-800-460-1663.
As the election heads into the home stretch, Facebook is offering its users an interesting proposition. USA Radio Network's Chris Barnes explains from Washington.
Facebook paying some users to deactivate their accounts. As many as 400,000 people will be invited to join a study, and those who opt in can get as much as $120. In exchange, Facebook and Instagram accounts must be deactivated later this month for either a week to 6 weeks, and the goal is to better understand how the sites impact political attitudes and behavior during the election.
With just 55 days until the election, the Biden campaign called a lid Tuesday morning, meaning there will be no new news from the Democratic nominee for the remainder of the day. Democratic nominee Joe Biden spent his Labor Day in Pennsylvania, where he took questions from AFL-CIO members. Biden also doing some local interviews. This is USA Radio News.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-610-5739. 800-610-5739. That's 800-610-5739. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Democratic Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and Senate Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer are warning that a forthcoming GOP coronavirus proposal is a non-starter. The two congressional Democratic leaders saying in a joint statement the pared-down Republican bill is headed nowhere. White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow saying a bill, though, could jumpstart the economy even more.
Targeted areas could be very helpful. Maybe even make the recovery even stronger. For example, it's going to be targeting healthcare, education, and the economy. I think small business PPP loans are going to be extended. We've always wanted to help the kids. We've always wanted to help reopen the schools to help the kids and get more jobs. And if they want to add targeted checks, that's fine, too.
9 pharmaceutical companies on Tuesday issued a rare joint pledge seeking to reassure the public about the safety and efficacy of their potential vaccines for coronavirus. The statement, coming from top drug companies working on coronavirus vaccines, including Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna, comes amid fears of political pressure from President Trump on the vaccine approval process and doubts among the public about taking a vaccine. The joint pledge states that the companies will not seek FDA approval for their vaccine until a rigorous Phase 3 clinical trial shows that it's safe and that it works. For USA Radio News, I'm Tim Berg.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
America spends 5 to 10 times more on health care than any other country in the world. Then why does America rank number 43 worldwide for longevity? Third world countries, such as Cuba and Costa Rica, rank higher than the U.S. So what's wrong with health care in America? This is what's wrong. Our $3 trillion healthcare industry is focused on disease management, while 70% of our planet relies on traditional indigenous medicine that is focused on health optimization. Learn how. Join Dr. Dan Royal on the show The Royal Treatment, bringing you the latest information on the best of medicine, biotechnology, and pharmacology, as well as secrets from the past. These secrets have withstood the test of time and are being rediscovered today. In fact, indigenous healthcare practitioners are using them for the benefit of their patients who seek optimal health and wellness. Now, here is Dr. Dan Royal.
Greetings, listeners. I am Dr. Dan Royal. As you heard on the end today, we're going to have another good discussion with a very well-known alternative practitioner in the U.S. His name is Dr. Richard Gaines, and we're going to be talking about sexual dysfunction in men and women. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsors. Now we have two primary sponsors. The first is the Turtle Healing Band Clinic, which is where I work here in Las Vegas. And I know you say that's a funny name, but it's an Indian name, the Cottons that are floating on the ocean. And Turtle Healing Band Clinic was established as part of an Indian jurisdiction to practice what is known in the United States as traditional medicine, to regulate this practice, which is not being regulated in any of the 50 states in which we live in this country. But the Crow tribe over this practice so that we can learn more about it for our patients and to protect this practice from extinction. That's the Turtle Healing Band Vegas at 702-562-1454. That's 1754. Or you can email me directly, droyal@thhb for Turtle Healing Band Clinic.com. Now, our other sponsor is the First Nations related to the Turtle Healing Band Clinic. It is a licensing entity for those tribal providers, as we call them, who practice traditional medicine, which includes all things alternative, holistic, complementary, and so forth. This, again, is under the jurisdiction of the Crow tribe for their support. The First Nation Medical Board clinical studies, which we've talked about in our program from time to time, and we'll continue to keep you updated about the things which we are learning. So, for example, one of the current clinical studies we're conducting involves helping our patients develop natural antibodies against the current COVID-19 pandemic virus. This is for patients who wish to avoid vaccination, chemical vaccination from the pharmaceutical companies. There is a way to make these antibodies naturally using the dendritic cells from your blood. And this is available to you if that is what you desire. Well, let's get on with our program. Rich Gaines with us today, and I believe he's practicing in Minnesota. He's also a member of the American Academy of Anti-Aging. American Academy of Anti-Aging, or A4M, is the largest alternative medical organization in the world in over 120 countries. Dr. Rich, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Dr. Dan. I might have misspoke before. I am vacationing in Montana, Minnesota. I meant a mistake. I actually practice in Florida, in Boca Raton, Florida, and I've been in Florida for many years.
That's what I thought. You were in Florida, but we spoke earlier this morning. You said you're in Minnesota, which is
I was confused as where I'm here for a few days, so it's beautiful.
Yeah, you're in Montana, and that's where the Crow tribe of Indians are actually located. Yeah. You've had a long-term career as a physician. It looks like you've been practicing for about 30 years, just like me. I've been practicing for about 1990, and I have a wealth of experience from the people that I've worked with over the years, having grown up with a medical doctor, my father, who was conventional, but he went through the transformation, becoming an alternative doctor when I was a teenager. So I've been watching and observing since then, and eventually became myself. Now, he's an MD, but I came a DO. So what do you know? We both practice in the same field, but we have a little different background in our education. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, because I was very superficial in what I had to say.
Yeah, well, you know, I was brought up as a traditional medical doctor too. I mean, I went through school, did all my schooling in Boston, and went through. Boston is very conservative in medicine, and of course, it's a big medical center. But I developed an interest in alternative therapies well into my career. I had a 20-year career as an anesthesiologist, cardiac anesthesiologist, a obstetric anesthesiologist, pediatric anesthesiologist, and set up a big program down in Florida. Make a long story short, I actually moved forward because we sold the practice, and I was able to look for things I was very interested in. I did become very interested in alternative therapies in health. So I moved forward with that and started a company based on that premise, and it just took off from there. And I'm still learning. There's a lot to learn, and a lot of things are happening.
Well, you've written a few about the books. What are the titles of those books?
That's a good question. I forget the names, but they're basic books on nutrition and diet and exercise, of course, because lifestyle is very, very important for this, and carry on with the proper lifestyle. So I do give a lot of encouragement. There are therapies and there are hormones that we need to replace as we age, and I actually do as other types of therapies for general health. Most of my patients are well, so I have a lot of well patients looking me up, and that's what. And I love this field.
Well, those are the patients who are seeking optimal health and wellness. Those are the types of patients that we also see and want to help, because we're practicing different form of medicine. It's really the antithesis of sick care that conventional medicine is. I'm Dr. Dan Royer. Listen to the World Today. My guest today is Dr. Richard Eaton. We're talking about sexual dysfunction in men and women. We'll be right back after the break.
Did you know that 4,000 years ago, the Earth's magnetic field was 5 Gauss? Over the last 165 years, scientists have measured the Earth's magnetic field and found that today it is only 0.5 Gauss, a decrease of 90%. However, your brain needs the Earth's magnetic field to restore energy to your cells. The good news is that the magnetic sleep pad can give your brain what it needs to restore energy to your cells. Order your magnetic sleep pad by calling 702-444-LUCKY. Think of the magnetic sleep. It gets you up hills faster and with less wear and tear. With the magnetic sleep pad, your brain now has the energy it needs to repair your damaged cells, make enzymes, enhance immunity, and protect you against electrosmog, all while you sleep. Get your magnetic sleep pad by calling 702-444-LUCKY. Studies have shown that the magnetic sleep pad can help improve pain, sleep, fatigue, energy, and concentration. Get a free quote for your magnetic sleep pad by calling 702-444-LUCKY. That number again is 702-444-5825.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. I help people solve difficult and trying personal problems every day on my TV show, but there's one problem that's just got me stumped: childhood hunger. Nearly 16 million children in America struggle with it. That's 1 in 5 kids who may not know where their next meal is coming from, despite the fact that there's food out there to feed them all. Now, I don't know about you, but that is unacceptable to me. Luckily, the Feeding America network of good people is out there collecting surplus food and their families at local food banks all across the country. But let's face it, they can't do it without your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
I spend a lot of time in the garage, but even more time in the rain, sleet, and mud. In '95, I helped tow your moving trailer. In '05, I helped you get out of a ditch. Yeah, I know I'm a bit rusty, and sadly in '09, it was sparks from me, your handy chains, dragging behind your truck that accidentally started a wildfire.
Sparks spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now back to the show.
back to the show, and thank you for sticking with us. We're now in the second segment of our show. I'm Dr. Dan Royal, and this is the Royal Treatment. Today, our guest is Dr. Richard Gaines. He's actually a nationally renowned alternative medical physician, and during the break, we were talking about some of the things that he's accomplished. He had an anesthesia company that went national, and he also had a second company that went national, and now he's focusing on a third. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Rich?
Well, the third company is similar to my second, but what happened is it got very big, and I wanted to not slow down, but I wanted to focus a little more on some very interesting topics that I wanted to do. And I sort of separated from a partner of mine, and everybody's happy. We went different ways, and I started a company called Life Gains. It's Life Gains Medical and Aesthetics. So it's a combination of course, the aesthetics with fillers and threads and all this the stuff, and actually hair transplant. But I also do hormone replacement and other therapies for erectile dysfunction and just general health. So I do use a lot of alternative therapies, but everything I practice has evidence, and I practice evidence-based medicine. It's in the literature, even recent literature. It's always supported. It's just not using it for. It's FDA approved for other things, and it's acceptable to use things off-label. About 60% of drugs are actually used off-label. And, my clinical experience moved tremendously with what I have to offer.
So, for example, people use metformin off-label to help with weight loss, but doctors like ourselves who are practicing in the United States, we need to have evidence basis for the things that we're doing, because if you're practicing in any of the 50 states where they have medical, and they all do, and they're not in favor necessarily of off-label practice, certainly alternative approaches, and so you need to be able to defend and protect yourself. Currently, there's only one country now that has a medical board, and that's the state of Arizona. So you can be dual licensed there and practice homeopathy, or I suppose complementary medicine, and be protected against your conditions. You take precautions, way to be licensed with our medical board. You can be dual licensed and practice what's called traditional medicine, which covers some of the things that you're talking about. Another, you can also do clinical studies. Clinical studies also help to exempt you by using your patients as human subjects, and we talked about that at the top of the hour, things that we're doing in our clinic with what we call the dendritic cell vac protocol. But tell us some of the things, when you see your patients, what is it that you look for and treat in regards to your patients?
Yeah, most patients come in, they're well. They have physicians who treat conventional illnesses. They come in, some people come in with hypertension, maybe some form for us of diabetes, but they come in and I discuss with them what I can offer. Most of them are over the age of 50 or so and have some really meant to live much past 30 years old. I mean, 20,000 years ago, we brought up the kids in the cave, you help with the grandchildren, and in times of famine, the whole tribe moves away, usually in the wintertime, and grandma and grandpa couldn't keep up with the tribe. Well, saber-tooth tiger, and the fossil evidence indicates that grandma and grandpa were 26 to 30 years old. So it was harsh. Of course, with the development of agriculture and eradicating starvation, we live longer, but we've exposed the degenerative diseases of aging because of that. So we live to 60, 70, 80 years old, but we develop Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, diabetes, coronary artery disease, frailty, fractured hips, and even cancer goes up as we age. Well, I'm not saying this is the panacea, but we know when we add hormones back, we can slow or decrease, and actually, in some cases, reverse some of these degenerative diseases of aging. And it's not just my opinion. It is supported in the medical literature. And you would say, why can't you go to your doctor? And he tells you, hey, you're due now for this. Not be invented. So the cost of them is not high. And there might be a conflict of interest between big pharma and what we're doing in traditional, conventional or alternative type of therapy, where we keep people healthy for a longer period of time. So my change over the years, it's individualized. So you have to follow the patients over time. And some patients actually improve. They need less hormone. Some people need more. And as their lifestyle improves, they might need less. But it's generally something that I offer each patient individually, and they all do better, and it's really very satisfying for me and the patients.
Yeah, one of the things that I remember years ago when I received some training in the use of electrodermal equipment. So in particular, this was a European company using a device called the Mora. Mora is actually a more objective biofeedback device that gives information, and that takes that information, the abnormal frequencies it detects, and then feeds it back to the patient, inverses it to neutralize some of the problems the patient may be experiencing. That's a little different type of approach to treatment of disease, but we use something similar in our office today. But the point I'm trying to make is even that company said that what you're doing in diagnosing should be confirmed with objective testing. So we do that in our office. We check for some of the hormones you're talking about in which patients may be deficient. So for example, of course, we'll check the male and female hormones. We'll check the thyroid, but we do a thorough thyroid check. So we'll check for the total T3, T4, reverse T3, which can actually be precipitated by taking artificial thyroid, as well as antibodies that your body now begins to fight against. But we'll even check adrenal hormones like DHEA sulfate and pregnenolone. In fact, I had a patient in my office this morning who had 0 pregnenolone. That's not unusual. That's one of 2 adrenal hormones. Now, I don't know of a drug that actually replaces the adrenals, and so we will use DHEA and pregnenolone in combination because they break down to different hormones. We have different doses for men and women. But the point is, a drug does not address everything. And these 2 particular supplements are relatively inexpensive, and I use them in virtually all of my patients. What about you?
They're not drugs. They're bioidentical hormones. We lived with them throughout our lives, and we're just replacing them in a proper fashion. I mean, I usually shoot for I go through school grades. I mean, labs will take 4,000 patients in a local area, and they will do a curve and show you that there's 1% on each side, 1.5% on each side out of range, or in the middle somewhere. I consider most hormones A, B, C, D school grades, and most of the hormones, except cortisol and other hormones that we don't want too high all the time, most of the hormones I want to have a school grade of an A or a B, and that's what I'm shooting for. It's really very straightforward, and people even with a minimal change in their hormones to that school grade of an A or B, and instead of a C, D, or failing school grade, they do feel a lot better. I do the lab testing you mentioned is I follow the same labs. One of the things is a free T3. I don't know if you mentioned free T3, but that is the only active thyroid hormone. So I really spend a lot of time just with free T3, and the TSH means nothing to me. It does nothing in the human body. But the free T3 is important, and to have that at an acceptable level, which varies throughout the day. If you take thyroid hormone in the morning, it might be high. If you do a blood test later. But generally, I want that to be level somehow throughout the day, and T3 is the major hormone. But of course, reverse T3 and antibodies are an issue for many patients. They don't even realize that they have issues due to exposure to Synthroid or other hormones that other synthetic type of hormones that might not be healthy for them. I only use bioidenticals. That means atom per atom, the same hormone that we have lost as we age. Not anything that is developed by big pharma. The Women's Health Initiative studies were done on females during the 90s and published in the early 2000s, and they unfortunately showed a lot of confusing data, and it confused the public and even gynecologists and other medical doctors, thinking that all hormones are no good. But if you examine the data closely, Premarin, which stands for pregnant mare's urine, it's not human hormone, but it's generally if it actually showed that one arm of the study, just taking Premarin, showed a decrease in breast cancer. It's incredible, a decrease in breast cancer. And of course, when they added the progestin, which was medroxyprogesterone, which is an ugly monster hormone, this caused all the problems in cancer and other things that developed over the length of the study. So unfortunately, bioidentical hormones, the studies that are out there are big studies, but not paid for by big pharma. And the studies that were done show the benefits of replacing bioidenticals. There is no increased incidence of cancer, breast cancer, dementia, heart disease. It's all decreased.
Yeah, I'm a believer that the natural hormones don't cause any of that. That's all caused by the synthetic hormones. And interestingly, it's the synthetic hormones that can actually suppress your hormone production. What you're saying is that by using bioidentical hormones, we're simply augmenting our production. One of the things I found by using natural thyroid, if somebody actually does have an elevated TRT3, reverse T3, that means they're making a type of artificial active thyroid the body doesn't recognize it can use. I found it's been 100% corrected by switching to a natural thyroid. The other thing I've noticed is that when doctors evaluate patients who are taking natural thyroid, they become confused, even alarmed, when the TSH drops to almost zero. As you mentioned, has no function in the body, but they're not used to seeing a patient who is taking natural thyroid. So they want to switch it back to synthetic so they can look at labs that they can appreciate. And one of the only things we found that actually helps to lower thyroid antibodies is using a higher amount of active thyroid, or T3. And as you mentioned, in order to get that to be level throughout the day, the difference natural thyroid and the synthetic is you have to take the natural more frequently. So you would have to take, let's say, for example, Nature-Throid twice a day as opposed to Synthroid once a day. The reason for that is because Synthroid, there is T3, it's all T4, so the body has to convert it to T3, as you know. But with natural thyroid, it does contain T3 in a ratio of about 4 to 1, T4 to T3. And that means you're going to have to take it twice a day because T3 active thyroid has a short half-life, about 8 to 12 hours. In fact, if you're using it to help with weight loss, you probably need to take it about 3 times a day. I'm Dr. Dan Roy. You're listening to Royal Treatment, and my guest today is Dr. Richard Gaines. We're talking about, well, of course, as you heard, bioidentical hormones, but we're going to continue our discussion on sexual dysfunction as well. Break. Stay with me.
Did you know that stem cells are present in all of us, just waiting for an opportunity to regenerate your organs and other body tissues? Studies show that your own stem cells are released into the bloodstream following a trauma. However, a plant-based supplement called RBC Blend has been found to increase stem cells in your blood without trauma. Order your RBC Blend by calling 702-444-LUCKY. One study showed that participants who used RBC Blend increased stem cells in their blood by over 100% after only 2 weeks. Increase your stem cells with RBC Blend by calling 702-444-LUCKY. Stem cells are the ultimate anti-aging treatment. For example, they can be used to improve facial appearance, skin tone, and hair growth. Stem cells can also help with muscle aches and joint pains. Increase your stem cells with RBC Blend by calling 702-444-5825. Could RBC Blend be what you need to achieve optimal health and wellness? Find out today and order RBC Blend by calling 702-444-LUCKY. That number again is 702-444-5825.
1 in 3 adults in America have prediabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Here's 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mama. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse prediabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Bet he can't say that in reverse.
No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay. Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
We are back to the show. I'm Dr. Daniel Royal, and you're listening to The Royal Treatment with me. And if you need to reach me, you can by calling the Turtle Healing Band Clinic at 702-562-1454, 702-562-1454, or email me directly at droyal@thbclinic.com. D as in Daniel Royal, ROYAL @THB for Turtle Healing Band Clinic.com. And now on to our discussion with Dr. Richard Gaines. As I mentioned, he is still practicing after 30 years, same as myself. He practices in Boca Raton, Florida, and he focuses his practice on helping patients who want to be optimally well by using bioidentical hormones. Now, before the break, we were talking about thyroid, and that, of course, is one of those natural bioidentical hormones that can be obtained from a natural source. We use NatureThyroid in my practice and have found it to be very successful without the side effects you can get into with T4. Interestingly, if T4 is not being broken down, so from synthroid or levothyroxine in your brain, it can result in similar symptoms that you might see in an MS patient. Now, Dr. Gaines, you had some other things you wanted to say about thyroid, so why don't you continue our discussion?
Well, we were talking on camera before about there's a phenomenon called Wilson's temperature syndrome, and this doctor actually sort of developed treatment to reset the pituitary and the generation of thyroid hormone. And the way he does it is he uses T3, and T3 is really the only active thyroid hormone that's a hormone that does the work. T4 needs to be converted to T3. So you have two hormones, T3, T4, and T4 really doesn't do much. So what his protocol was is that you step up the doses of T3 to very high levels. Of course, when they're high, there is a risk of getting tachycardia and sweaty and jittery. If it's done slowly, it doesn't happen too much. But if it does happen, the way he treated it, the way he slowed down the effect of T3 is by taking T4, by administering T4. Okay. So you can see T4 interferes with the actual active thyroid hormone. So most of these preparations and with Synthroid, for instance, is T4. And the physicians in the 70s thought that would be a safer way to go because you wouldn't get the tachycardia, and you depend on the body converting. Of course, many people don't convert T4 to T3. So having T3 in any formulation is extremely important. And honestly, I think if there was a suspended release type of T4, it would be a good thing. And there is, but it doesn't work that well. I mean, one day they'll have it. So that's the thyroid. But there are a lot of other hormones that we're dealing with. And when a patient comes to me, they have goals. I always ask them their goals. And any patient that comes in, it's always body composition, some sort of weight loss, energy levels, and sexual energy. Almost universally, people have issues with sexual energy as they age. And it's the actual statistics on this is in men, and I'm going to focus on men because females have a different issue because they have a much more complicated sexual response. But with men, it's fairly straightforward, though we know that with men, when they come in, I have to measure their testosterone levels, which actually can affect their sexual health. But there's a lot of other things. It's not just testosterone. Right. So where was I going with this? I was going to really. We're talking about the difference between men and women, but one of the things I've seen, you don't have to be an older man to have a low testosterone, or woman. I've seen even young adult teenagers that have a abnormally low testosterone. And when we prescribe testosterone, of course, we use the bioidenticals we've been talking about. But one of the things that we like to do is we like to combine it with progesterone to offset the breakdown to estrogen. We have to,
as you mentioned, there's more than just testosterone involved. So one of the things that needs to be done is to prevent that breakdown, or I suppose the side effects that could occur from testosterone breaking down to estrogen. Now, a lot of people were using an aromatase inhibitor of some sort. I believe resveratrol can potentially function as an aromatase inhibitor, but we like progesterone because it has a lot of health benefits and can help to neutralize those effects. So you can custom compound whatever you want to give to your patient. And I should
Interesting that, with the addition of progesterone, I mean, it's an interesting topic. I had used progesterone in the past, but over time, I realized that the estrogen is very important for male health as well in general. Of course, the most concentrated number of testosterone receptors is that the brain, and the second most concentrated area of testosterone receptors, which are all over the body, but the second most concentrated area is the heart. We know that cardiovascular health improves with adequate testosterone levels. Now, estrogen has similar type of aspects as far as brain health and cardiac health. It's been shown in studies that men who have slightly higher estrogen levels have less cardiovascular disease. So I sort of went away from doing this anastrozole, which everybody's doing that inhibits the breakdown of testosterone to estrogen. So I do use it because there are men who have a very active aromatase enzyme in their body, but most men don't need anastrozole the way I provide therapy. So that's a drug. I'm not crazy about it anyway, and I don't really use it very much. Of course, you can use chrysin, which is an herbal type of thing, but most men don't really make a lot of estrogen. And if they do, they're going to protect themselves from cardiovascular problems. Of course, the side effects of a little extra adipose and nipple sensitivity might occur. Then I feel comfortable using anastrozole for a week, have it go down, and they don't need it anymore. Estrogen has actually been shown to decrease abdominal fat if it's adequately replaced in females. Of course, females after menopause will gather this abdominal fat. Of course, when estrogen is used, you can decrease that issue. In men, I don't try to wipe it out anymore, which I used to do. And of course, with performance enhancement, which I don't practice performance enhancement, though it is a specialty out there where anabolic steroids are used to build muscle. They really hurt themselves in other ways, and they use a lot of estrogen blocking drugs. So I don't ever recommend using these monster chemical hormones to increase muscle mass. Natural hormones, natural lifestyle can increase your muscle mass to a very as much as you want. I do recommend evening them out. And you mentioned about young men having low levels. As a matter of fact, the average level of testosterone has dropped by about 1/3 since the 1960s. We have so many toxins in the environment now. We're exposed to so much negative stuff that we are making less and less testosterone as time goes forward. So I think the need for hormone replacement is a very important and serious consideration in anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you mentioned, testosterone is everywhere in the body, receptors for both men and women. Both men and women need testosterone, if for nothing else, for muscle production. And as you pointed out, very important for cardiovascular function, which is all muscle. I had a woman in my office today. We were reviewing her labs, and she makes 0 estrogen. This happens when you go through menopause. And so the reason we use bioidentical hormones is to help them maintain their youthfulness for as long as they wish. We have the technology, and so we can help them not only improve the quantity, but the quality of their lives. And so those are some things that can be done with testosterone. But one of the things, as we were mentioning during the break, that got alternative medicine on the map, or at least with the anti-aging community, was the use of growth hormone. Is that something that you use in your practice at all with any of your patients?
I do. I selectively use it in patients who have very low levels of growth hormone. Growth hormone had a bad rap. Unfortunately, it's called growth. It should be called human repair hormone. I mean, we lived with this hormone throughout our whole young lives, and of course, when youth, the the levels of growth hormone are very high because you're elongating bones and you're growing tissue. And then it levels off in the 20s and stays level for about 10 years when it starts dropping. It drops further and further, and of course, frailty and feebleness will kick in, muscle mass decreases, etc. There are studies as going far back as 1990, showing that that growth hormone replacement increases muscle mass in aged men. And this was a very significant study. It was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, but it fell out of favor over time because growth hormone got lumped in with anabolic steroids, these monster hormones that were abused by bodybuilders. It is not even a steroid. It is a protein. It's a string of amino acids, which are not steroids. So growth hormone, I think, is essential, and I do recommend it in people. Either stimulate the production or add it back as we age.
Now, one of the things that we probably haven't mentioned, and we probably don't need to go into too much detail, but we can increase the production of some hormones like testosterone and even growth hormone with X. I'm Dr. Dan Roy. You're listening to The World Treat. My guest today is Dr. Gaines. He is an alternative physician who is practicing patient in Boca Raton, Florida. We're going to take a short come back. We'll be talking about bioidentical hormones and function. Stay with us.
Would you like to increase your vitality? Disease develops within your body when the metabolic vitality of your cells is altered. Well, now there is a patented device that improves cell metabolism called Cell Vital. Cell Vital has been used for years by successful athletes to prepare for competition and improve performance. This is because Cell Vital increases blood and oxygen to your cells. Call 702-444-LUCKY and order your Cell Vital today. Cell Vital can help with cell regeneration after an activity by reducing stress, as well as be used for treating bruises, sprains, and muscle aches and pains. Cell Vital has also been shown to be beneficial for digestion, PMS, and smoking cessation. Get lucky with your health and call 702-444-5825. Accessories are available to help with specific body parts, such as the eyes, ears, and teeth. Animals too can benefit from Cell Vital for bone, joint, and circulation disorders. Call 702-444-LUCKY and get a free quote for your Cell Vital. That number again is 702-444-5825.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, have a seat. So here's the thing. When this company brought you on, we took a chance on you. You didn't have that 4-year college degree we typically look for.
Right.
But we gave you a shot anyway. And since then, you've worked incredibly hard and given it your all.
Thanks.
You've been an important asset to the team, but I don't think you can be an intern here anymore. We want to hire you.
You're serious?
Absolutely.
Find your next great employee. Introduce yourself to the Grads of Life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
I won't let you down.
I know.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
So here's the choice. Some people say the USA is finished. It's evil, a has-been, full of hate and injustice. The U.S. Constitution should be trashed and the Bill of Rights abolished. No free speech, no gun ownership. Competition and free markets are bad. We're all too stupid. For our own good, the government must own everything and know all your secrets.
Other people say that America has created the freest, richest, happiest, most generous society that has ever existed in the world. That's why millions of people are desperate to come here and escape their brutal lives in Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea, and 100 other countries.
In America, we have the right to succeed, the right to our own living, the right to have a family, the right to believe in God, the right to have our own ideas, the right to be safe and secure, and the right to be left alone.
Where do you stand? Help us save the Constitution and restore the American dream. Go to SaveMyFreedom.com.
Brought to you by the American Media Council.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
We are back to the show, and thank you for sticking with us. We're now in the final quarter of our show. You're listening to The Royal Treatment. Today is Dr. This is in Boca Raton, Florida, and he guys help, particularly seeking aesthetics and hormone replacement therapy, hormone replacement, actually. But Dr. Gaines actually uses interesting to help his patients who have sexual dysfunction. Shockwave. Tell us about that.
Okay, you did break up a little bit, but I think you asked about my treatment for sexual dysfunction.
Shockwave machine.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So extracorporeal shockwave therapy is a form of therapy that was developed many years ago. It actually, what's very interesting, it's in World War II, Germans noticed that when sailors were submerged underwater, when there was a depth charge, they would die. They would float to the surface, and they looked totally normal. Of course, at autopsy, their lungs were blown up and everything like that because of the shock wave. So they did a lot of research thinking that it would be a tool for wartime. The Department of the War Department there was contributing a lot of money. They did finally use it for medical purposes, and they were the first to try to dissolve a tumor, a brain tumor. It didn't work very well, but they tried to pulverize a brain tumor through someone's skull. They subsequently developed lithotripsy, the Dornier lithotripter, which was FDA approved here in the United States in 1985 or 86. And now it is the gold standard for any appropriate kidney stone. So the therapy is FDA approved. If you look over time, it has developed into for use in other things with a much lower intensity. It's used for orthopedic issues. It's used for pain and for tendonitis and things like that. It's actually FDA approved now. It's 100 times less powerful than a lithotripsy that I mentioned before, but it's used and FDA approved for lateral epicondylitis or tennis elbow and plantar fasciitis. It's also used for the temporary increase in blood flow. I wanted to make a distinction. I developed a protocol in the past, and I used something called a radial shockwave generator. Okay, radial shockwave will go onto the skin and loses energy as it enters the tissue. Focused shockwave, which is lithotripsy, the same technology as lithotripsy, is the energy is applied to the skin, but focused below the skin. So it's much more critically accurate and much more delivers an appropriate amount of energy. So focused is really the way to go. All the studies done with erectile dysfunction, and there's hundreds of them now. As a matter of fact, there were 20 of them published since 2020, but we're done with focused wave. So that's what I now use in my practice. I actually use a combination of focused and radial shockwave therapy, and I'm getting some very good results. Dr. Dan and I were talking off camera before with pulsed electromagnetic field therapy, which is basically a magnet that creates contractions of the muscle. I have my patients sit on this during therapy with, I call it dual stim, which is focused and radial shockwave for erectile dysfunction. All these things increase blood flow, stimulate endothelial cells, increase vascular endothelial growth tissue. It creates new blood vessel, new nerve tissue. And it's already been proven and shown in many, many studies. University of San Francisco has shown this to be true in rat tissue, and this was done years ago. In adults, of course, in humans, you can't really sacrifice their penile organ, but the evidence shows that it does work. As a matter of fact, there is now an International Society of Medical Shockwave Therapy that was formulated in 1997. These people it's an international organization. They use shockwave for many things. And I'll just tell you this, one of the things I'm very interested in is the use for coronary arteries. They are actually increasing oxygenation of the myocardial tissue, decreasing chest pain, and increasing myocardial perfusion with focused shockwave therapy, of course, slaved to an EKG. But a lot of exciting things are happening, and I have gotten some really good results with my dual stim therapy. I also use the pulsed electronic magnetic field therapy, and with that, hyperbaric oxygen therapy. If you really think about it, what we're trying to do is increase more vessels. I don't know if you've ever been to the Human Body Museum, but the Human Body Museum was supposedly Chinese prisoners that were dissolved in different layers. So you can see their bones, you see their arteries, their veins in single units. So if you look at the arteries end in capillary beds. These capillary beds are like cotton candy. This cotton candy deteriorates as we age. One of the areas where this cotton candy happens is in the pelvic region. It deteriorates as we age. Well, we know that we can grow new blood vessels with stimulation and oxygenation of the tissues in that area. Pulsed electronic magnetic field therapy, focused shockwave therapy, radial shockwave therapy in some studies, and even hyperbaric oxygen therapy increases oxygenation and vascularization of the tissues. And I've had some very good success in people who have been had prostate surgery or have failed to the Viagra and Cialis PDE5 inhibitors, and it brings back their function. It's been very rewarding, and I always add this, that women are humans as well. They have blood flow and capillary beds, and this works on women. Of course, I have done a small study. It seems to work, but of course we need a large randomized double-blinded sham-controlled study like they do in men for erectile dysfunction, which one day will happen, and I suspect soon it will be FDA approved. The University of Miami, Dr. Ramasamy is in phase 3 trials with a apparatus from Israel. It's a focused machine, linear focused machine. He's getting excellent results, and I suspect within 5 years this might become FDA approved for erectile dysfunction, not just plantar fasciitis and lateral epicondylitis.
Yeah, and I can see why you're getting results because you're using therapies in combination. I'm a big believer in the synergistic approach.
Absolutely.
Any particular patient cases you can share with us that might be of interest?
Oh, sure. I've had a number of patients who use something called Trimix. These are it's a combination of 3 vasodilators. It's injected directly into the penis. In Florida, I don't know about anywhere else, but in Florida, these radio ads are all over the place saying erectile dysfunction, come in 95%. You'll get we'll have you have an erection when you visit, or your money back. Of course, it happens because it's forcing blood into diseased blood vessels. And yes, it works if you want to inject your penis each time before a possible sexual encounter. So it can be inconvenient, though it is very satisfying for many patients who have serious problems. That being said, I've had a lot of patients who come in who don't want to do the injections anymore. Actually, some guys have said the injections work, but I'm not going to use them. So we do this dual stim therapy, pulsed electronic magnetic field therapy, hyperbaric oxygen. If they choose, I offer it. Some guys don't want to sit in that little cubicle, and have their ears pop. But at least the shockwave therapy, the pulsed electromagnetic field, and if they agree to it, either platelet-rich plasma or exosomes or Wharton's jelly can be injected directly into the penis, where the tubes of the penis have these large vascular beds. So it does help. It does help regenerate the tissues. And I've seen these guys start responding to low-dose Viagra, and they're very satisfied with their results. Their aging does continue, so there is a chance that they come back in 6 months requiring a tune-up with dual stim therapy. But it works. It definitely works, and all the studies are showing that over this year. There's been 6 studies showing the positive benefits of just focused shockwave therapy.
Yeah, very interesting that the ultimate problem seems to come down to blood flow in the extremities. And of course, we need blood flow everywhere in our body. And things that we like about the pulsing electromagnetic field in our office, of course, we have a CB pulse, which is a chair, a very powerful electromagnetic field. It causes the pelvic floor muscles to contract, but that contraction at the same time is increasing blood flow. It's a kind of a passive exercise, if you will. And one of the things that we like about some of these particular approaches is that they can also be used at home. So, for example, there's a home unit where you can get a pulsing electromagnetic field in the form of a mat and a pad, and then you can sit on the pad at home and you can do daily treatments as well. Do you have anything like that for people to use at home to follow up with what you do in the office?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I actually have recommended that to people. They know about it. There is tissue evidence that pulsed electronic magnetic field therapy actually does energize mitochondria, and it actually provides electrons and to increase mitochondrial health, which of course is the powerhouse of the cell, and and creates the function of our blood vessels and everything else that we're made of. So it's a very important thing, PEMF. And we don't get exposed to a proper magnetic field anymore because of all the frequencies going through the air.
Yeah, and there are ways that we can counteract that. I mean, one of the things that we recommend for our patients, if they want to have a more complete stimulation, magnetic stimulation, you get a static sleeping magnetic pad, which immerses you in the magnetic field when you're sleeping, because as we all know, the Earth's magnetic field is decreasing. Currently, it's about 0.5 Gauss, but well, about 4,000 years ago, we think it was 5 Gauss. And we need that magnetic field to help us regenerate when we're sleeping. Well, it sounds like you have lots of tools that you're using for your patients, and I commend you for the good work that you're doing there in Boca Raton, Florida. Thank you for being with us as our guest today, Dr. Richard Gaines. I'm Dr. Dan Roy. You've been listening to The World Treatment. We'll be back again next week with another episode. Hopefully, you've learned one new thing today. And if you have, your time with us has been well spent. But until next week, may you all be well. Bye for now.
Rich is just a really, really, really good guy. The term good egg is